Hello. No, that was a bit freaky, wasn't it? Hello. 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 Oh, I can't settle on a hello this evening. Hello and welcome to the Comedy Slab podcast.
It's not the only thing you can't settle on.
I'm Shane got a He's Adrian Lacey piping in and heckling from the cheap seats already, and we've hardly begun as the carpenters.
Get on with it and keep my girlfriend's name out of your flipping mouth.
As the carpenters once said, but with a lot more verve and alacrity than I could ever manage. It is the comedy show Slab Class.
That'll do.
It's close enough for jazz, isn't it, really? Let's pretend we haven't been drinking. And if you've not caught up with the podcast before, every week we choose a comedy program. One week he chooses one, the following week I choose one, and then on it goes. And on it has gone for about 190 odd episodes, and they were all
very
odd. Yes, very odd. But anyway, yes, so we'll choose a comedy show to slab, as 'twere. And we'll play a couple of clips between now and the end of the podcast, and we'll also give you our verdicts, which will take the form of a long-winded and unnecessarily wordy critique, followed by
agreed
a quick score. Quick scores. We boil it down to the scores on the doors. It's a bit like the generation game, really.
We should have fessed up on week one, really, what the formula was.
Yeah, 45 minutes of pain. With a quick score at the end, and away we all go. It was my turn to choose last week, and I chose. I thought I wanted to go a bit current actually, because I thought there was lots of new stuff coming up on the TV. I don't know if you've noticed, comedy wise, and we kind of done stuff like Rising Damp and Brass Eye and a bit of Fry and Laurie and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, maybe we should go something a bit more modern. But then to go modern, you have to go back to 1647, which is a bit weird, isn't it, really? And I chose the Witchfinder. The reason it caught my attention was because it's written by the Gibbons brothers. And I think, is it additional material or script editing by Steve Coogan? I can't remember what it said on the credits. Did you see that?
Keep talking while I look it up. Well, we'll come back to that maybe.
I know he's listed as a writer in some quarters, but I mean, suffice to say he's had a hand in it as well. But before we do that, comedy news. And in terms of comedy news, in all senses of the word, there's only one big story, really, isn't there? And that was, I mean, I don't know whether you watch the Oscars. I don't like the program. I don't watch it. But did you watch it? Did you see Will Smith give?
Well, only in the sense that it suddenly became a news story. Now, we're aware, by the time you're hearing this, it's not hot news, but we can probably widen out the discussion because I think it does raise bigger questions, does it not?
Well, it does. I mean, and it happened since last we met, hasn't it? So, which is why we're kind of talking about it a few days afterwards. But it has moved on a bit, hasn't it? Because Will Smith has said a few words, and I know Chris Rock has said even fewer. But
we've even had input from Will Smith's mum. I mean, it's not that the Daily Mirror has got desperate, but, it's an angle.
She didn't say, we're sending you with your auntie and uncle to live in Bel Air, did she, by any chance?
What, with her Birmingham accent?
Yeah, I don't know why. She's from Antwerp. But what's your hot take on it? Did you, because I had an instant reaction to this, and I don't know whether it's just me.
You wanted to pile him on Will Smith's side.
Go on, you tell me yours and I'll show you mine.
It's I don't wish to see yours, but I could see why the Joker caused offence, but it's a very slippery slope to start decking people for espousing views that you don't like, and that includes jokes you don't like. So, no, nasty. I agree with the new Will Smith, the reborn Will Smith, who says violence has no place, etc., etc.
It's like causing a major accident and getting out half cut and going, drink driving has no place on our roads. Well, we'll stop it then, you prat. What's the matter with you?
Well, it wasn't me.
Do you know what I mean? It's no good him going, violence has no place.
It's no good calling me a prat when it's him what done it.
Sorry, I was calling him a prat. He's behind you. Quick, watch out. Oh, too late.
They don't call me slaphead for nothing.
Let me tell you my take on it.
Yes.
And so I couldn't have been further from the page that you're on, really, I suppose, is that...
Well, 'twas ever thus, was it not?
Well, that's part of the jeopardy, isn't it? That's what I like about it.
Jeopardy dog.
Okay, Mushki. I thought, God, the Oscars are really desperate for our attention these days.
You thought it was staged?
I thought it was a stunt.
Oh, yeah, but
I still do.
You're a conspiracy theorist.
Why? Who said that?
Exactly.
Who's been talking?
It's not that there's a conspiracy. It's just they want you to think there's a conspiracy.
That's what they want you to think. No, I still do. I still think it's because for quite a number of years now, the Oscars have been getting like a really bad press amongst the oi polloi, and in terms of people going, I don't want to watch these backslapping rich people all lecturing
not head
us.
slapping.
Yes, lecturing us on how to live our lives and all that kind of stuff. And I think for a long time they've been aware that they are slipping from relevance. And I just thought, they are desperate now. This is the latest thing. I thought it was carefully orchestrated. I still do think it carefully orchestrated because we're still talking about it. I mean, we're only talking about it because we weren't convened when it happened. But you know what I mean?
That's your excuse. So, but we're playing the game of the conspiracy.
I want them to think they're winning. That's why I do it. But,
right. So, how do I know that you're not saying this just? I'm a conspiracy theorist too about you thinking it's a conspiracy. Yeah. I think you're just saying you don't actually believe it, but you just want to, stoke up the fires that are the Comedy Slab audience.
What was the middle bit?
Actually, it drifted off. I'd like to edit that last bit. It wasn't very good. Okay. But you're editing this week, so I'm sunk.
So you don't have an inkling of that at all. You don't feel
it crossed my mind when people started floating it. The trouble is, I can't prove it's not that, can I?
No.
And that's the thing about conspiracy theories. And even if you can prove, even if you have scientific evidence, well, that's just further proof of the conspiracy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or you've got the scientific proof, you must be in with the scientific establishment who are lying to us, and et cetera, et cetera.
It was a strange hit, wasn't it? Don't you think? It was a strange way to hit somebody.
It's just, they didn't quite get the angle, did they? Which, again, could feed into your argument or mine.
Yeah.
It's spontaneous, therefore they can't get the shot, or they don't want the shot because it's a conspiracy.
Yes. God, I don't know which one to believe now. This is
what was the middle bit?
This is a nightmare. But let's say that it is a real thing, and it's really stoked up the comedic world, hasn't it? As you say, because somebody said if this is where we're going, then in about a month's time, Jimmy Carr will be on life support somewhere, won't he?
The amazing thing is, and thank goodness, it, to my knowledge, hasn't really happened. I'm sure there will have been instances in the UK, but we like to think we're a bit more peaceable. But yeah, if that becomes, if not the new normal, then a possibility, then, well, that takes all risk out of comedy, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I just wonder where you go with this then. I mean, do you find that you just have huge amounts of security, which of course some gigs do. In fact, Chris Rock is in the news again, isn't he, today, as we speak, for one of his guests, somebody in his audience has been pepper sprayed and dragged out handcuffed for not wearing a mask at one of his gigs, which seems a little bit over the top. If you're worried,
a bit heavy duty, yeah.
Yeah, if you're worried about somebody not protecting their health for wearing a mask, to then clobber them and put handcuffs on them and pepper spray them is probably not going to be good for their health either, is it? Really? So,
well, but also if they've got COVID, isn't the pepper spray going to make them sneeze it over everything? I mean, I just asked the question. Just putting it out there.
It is a bit of a twisted logic, but yeah. So I mean, so the answer is either you just have comedians not performing to the power that they would do normally, or you just have massive security presence that prevents people. It's the fact that people think it's okay because, and this is the problem, that somebody like somebody famous has done it, that it's okay to do it. Is that's danger, is it? I don't know whether that's...
Well, that's one of the things. He's a high-status, successful person in his own terms, in the classic showbiz terms. Whether you like his material is immaterial, I suppose, from that point of view.
Quite like Men in Black, but... Chris
I
Rock.
quite like Ladies in Pink, but, I'm a bit fey.
I thought you were going to say Lady in Red by Krista Berg, and I was sure.
Well, if we're moving into deep, profound cultural territory, yes, I will nail my colours to the Krista Berg mask.
Mask
or mask? Yeah, I've got masks on the brain. I blame you and the conspiracy.
I do have this theory that every time you record an episode of the Comedy Slab podcast, you then, to come down, you just sit there with headphones on listening to Christopher, Lady and Red going, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
That's how I calmed down this evening, but felt like good it did me.
Okay. Well, interesting. I mean, I do wonder whether these things ever come out in the wash, if it is a conspiracy. Whether, like you say, whether we'll ever know one way or the other. I mean, I suppose the way to deal with it is to just accept it and ignore it, isn't it? Don't bother about it.
Well, maybe we should be looking at the email account for one Lee H. Oswald, if there is a real conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because I reckon there'll be an email exchange with Will Smith and Chris Rock, all in on it, copied in, obviously.
I mean, that's ridiculous. This idea that he was in a book suppository. I mean, have you seen the size of those things? They're tiny.
Well, I wouldn't want a book that size up my
You'd never get it up your fundament, would you? That's ridiculous.
And you wouldn't loan it to anyone else afterwards, would you? That's general protocol.
I remember my dad having them in hospital. He said, those suppositories, he said, they taste disgusting. He said, I'm never going to have those again.
Oh, and very chewy as well, I guess.
He said, for all the good they were, you might as well shove them up.
Yeah.
Right,
moving on.
Moving swiftly on. The Witchfinder. Well, normally, how do we feel? I mean, if we're going to slab this, is a question that could be asked. And, well, not on this occasion, because, I mean, had you heard of it? Did you know of its existence?
What you mean you don't want to ask me that? I need to be clear whether you're actually asking me or telling me you're not asking me.
I'd have to play the tape back, to be honest with you. I wasn't really listening.
What are you doing recording on tape, Grandad, anyway?
Tape, Grandad?
Are you sure you haven't been drinking?
I have. Cheers.
'Tis but the 8th hour. We should be sober as judges. I was looking forward to it. I was aware of it in the sense that it was front page iPlayer for a bit, which is BBC code for, heavy promotion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't think, one must never do jokes about witchfinders, but I did find myself thinking, which jokes about witchfinders are they going to do? But didn't we go down that avenue last week?
Yes.
You told me.
Yeah, I did. I mean, that was one of the things. I mean, we'll talk about this, I'm guessing, as we go on. But one of the things that occurred to me, I don't know whether this occurred to you, was how much material can you get out of this as a subject? You like you say, you kind of think, are these all going to be the same kind of jokes? It's interesting the way that it went, actually. I mean, as I say, we'll talk about it a bit later. But was that something that you thought as well? Was this quite a limiting subject?
No, it wasn't so much that. In that, I mean, this is putting my head on the block, and doubtless you'll cut it off or string me up like they used to witches. But there is a serious subject there. And actually, my first thought was that, because we've discussed it in my writing group, you'll be delighted to learn, and I'm sure your subscription will be entered soon to join me in said writing club for that very reason. But the Witchfinder General, the head honcho at one point, I'm not sure how many we got through, but if there was just one, the main one anyway, he was completely self-appointed. But then you think, well, it's not like there's necessarily going to be a body to recommend, like headhunters for, forgive the pun, for witchfinders. I don't know what I expected them to be, but if you've just got the balls to do it, you could just say, "I'm a witchfinder," and you do it with enough confidence, and you get a job.
Yeah, I mean that was what we saw in this episode as well, wasn't it? Is that all these people prancing about the countryside, going, "Oh, well, I'm a witchfinder." And then being engaged to do their work. It's quite interesting. Should we have a clip and have a listen and see, get a feel for what it sounds like? In the first clip, I mean, it was quite near the top of the show again. And in fact, our story begins. Well, rather than me tell you how the story begins, let's hear it. It's actually taken up at the start, we find out, by a storyteller in a puppet show booth. Or is it just a man in a tent?
The year of our Lord, 1645. England is on its knees. A kingdom blighted by civil war, plague, but most of all, witchery. Yet God has sent forth a breed of man to hold these wretches to the cleansing fires of justice. Yes, I'm the Witchfinder, here to tell the true tale of a wretch called Elizabeth Snell. She worshipped the devil, got down on her knees, and used his dark powers to murder her niece. I can't hear you. That's better. Her windpipe gives way, the neck starts to crack. The weight of her body fractures her back. Her eyes start to bulge, her bowels open wide. The last meal she had is no longer inside.
I didn't know they shut themselves.
For women like Elizabeth are easily led. She was an only child who never wed. And if there are no further questions...
I've got a question.
What?
I thought you said she murdered her niece. If
Yes?
she was an only child, how did she even have a niece?
Oh, for God's sake.
Well, he said if anyone's got any questions.
The Witchfinder's meant for the children. If you had any respect, you shut your mouth.
You know that's not a Witchfinder, that is a man in a tent.
Well, don't ruin it. They're really a man tent.
Oh, well done.
It's not a tent, it's a booth.
What is wrong with you?
Why not let it go?
I was just interested.
Yeah, well, you would be, wouldn't you?
You laughed at a line there that I didn't. I've only just made out what it was.
What are you saying?
So throwaway, to do with the bowels, of course. We're back to your favourite territory and, the book suppository.
Yes.
Now, guess who's forgotten a headline? So we'll have to ad-lib as usual. You'd think I'd get the formula after 191 shows, wouldn't you?
You would.
My head is elsewhere, but Witchfinder, this finder will do. That sounds a bit lukewarm. There are reservations, so that's probably right.
Well, it's best to make a reservation, I always find. So,
Especially in post-COVID times, if that's what we're in.
do you want to start with your reservations, or?
Let's get them off my pigeon chest in one go. And I'm going to guess, this is really sticking my neck out again,
Yeah.
but that you might feel the same way, whereas we mostly disagree on just about everything under the sun most of the time. Do you remember you asked me, I think it was, it's no more than 2-3 slabs ago, who did this character remind me of? And it turned out the answer was another character, fictional character, from another show. I thought you were going down another line. Are we speaking roughly the same language, which we'll decode in a moment?
Yeah, definitely. What in Daisy May Cooper do you mean?
No, thinking of the Tim Key character.
Oh, okay.
And a certain office manager.
I think she's got it as well. I think Daisy May.
Well, they've all got it then.
Yes, but I think it's an understated method of acting, isn't it? It's like the school of being natural in a way, and I think it always ends up coming out like that now because he was one of the first to do it.
But it comes out as unnatural because I now associate it with Brent.
Yeah. That's the problem, isn't it? It's disappeared up its own fundament again, as you say. But yeah, I definitely did. Can I just say that the first time I watched this, I actually fell asleep.
That's my department.
but I was very, very tired in my defence.
I thought you were going to say I was very, very drunk.
I think it was less to do with the content and more to do with me not having an early enough night, I think was probably the issue there. But yeah, I mean that is I'm not really sure how you get around that one, Adrian. I don't know what you do with that. With if you want it to be natural, but as you say, you then do it in that style, and then it comes out sounding like it's a forced Davy Brent impression.
I think. See, we've talked about this naturalism versus non-naturalism thing. It might sound a contradiction in terms, but maybe there's a variety of naturalisms. Maybe it's a question of degree. Maybe it's a spectrum, and they're too close to the David Brent end.
I'll tell you what it is, and to illustrate it to people who are listening to this and think, well, what the hell are they talking about? It's that kind of, I always call it when they do rude. So they'll go, no, not when they do rude like that. When they say, oh, rude. Rather than saying that was rude or whatever, a bit rude, whatever. It's that kind, and he did it just after that clip that we heard. I think he was going to Tim Key's character Gideon Bannister, who's a sort of aspiring witchfinder, goes to buy a hat, but he hasn't really got the money, so he ends up just like kind of borrowing one and walking around the square in it. But he did that line where he said, of course, he said, the hat is the shoe of the head. It's the glove of the head also. And it's that kind of where they kind of run themselves into a cul-de-sac. It's that sort of thing as well, isn't it? It's that puts you in mind. That's what I think puts you in mind of the Brent character. But I don't know. How do you get around it? I don't know. Do you need to get around it? Did it ruin it for you, or did it give you a problem?
No, it was a bit of a bump in the road. I won't say it ruined it, but it drew attention to itself. That's the problem with it. And the thing about acting is it's fine until it's not fine. As long as acting doesn't draw attention to itself, you buy into it.
Yeah.
You start from a position, you've chosen to watch something, so you are friendly towards it. You don't come, hopefully, not even when we're critiquing things for the second viewing or listening, if we're doing that. But
yeah.
But then it is a bump in the road that says, "Oh, that was a jolt," and suddenly you're out of the story and you're worrying about acting technique and writing, and then you start thinking, was it like the Frankie Howerd thing? You said that he wants all the ooh, ah, ooh written down.
Yeah.
No, don't.
Which, of course, once you know that, you hear it completely differently then, don't you? Once you know that was scripted, you're then watching how he delivers it. I thought she was Daisy May Cooper, whose star is definitely rising, isn't it? It's in the ascendancy. I thought she did a lot, but then, of course, she's got that West Country accent as well, so it's that sort of all the same sort of feel to it. I'm a great fan of Tim Key, have been for a long period of time. What helped for me was people like Vincent Franklin being in it, who played a character called Topcliffe, who was like the local mayor kind of character. And people, you might not know Vincent's name, but you'd certainly know his face. He was in The Office, he was in 2012, he was in the thick of it. And he brings his own particular style. He doesn't seem to do accents or different voices or anything. He kind of delivers it as he does all the while, doesn't he, really? And his particular style, I felt, broke it up for me a bit.
Right. Well, certainly it was a strong ensemble, and I got the feeling, it's a baby cow production, we should say, and to me that's a mark of quality, really.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can think of any baby cow productions that I thought, that was thrown together. I don't think that it would get out the door in anything other than the best condition they can make it be in, which doesn't mean nothing's perfect, but the standards are high there.
And it's also a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Because it's so highly regarded, as you say, you look at the people that they can cast, and it's only the best, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You got Jessica Hines in a bit part, essentially, playing an old haggard woman,
but doing it very well. Which is a mark of her acting, I should say, swiftly.
Did you know her real name actually was Tallulah?
Her name was Tallulah. I possibly did. I think there's some connection between my girlfriend and her, some history from my Alison's acting days.
Did they have a knife fight or anything, was it?
Yeah, and it turned out they weren't stage knives.
Oh.
That's the problem.
But fortunately,
anyway,
they were bread
she's
knives.
out now.
Right.
Because I got fed up, visiting her in Holloway.
Who was that said that he said he pulled a knife on me? I knew he was a local lad because it still had jam on it. I can't remember who was.
That is a good line.
It is good, isn't it? I think it might have been a Hancock, but I can't. I wouldn't swear to that. Sorry, you were going to say.
No, I don't know that I had an awful lot to add to that particular line I was going down. It just felt. I will actually. It has made me think of. Fleshing out my idea that there's more than one naturalism. And it was sort of you touching on Daisy May Cooper, and she's from, she was in this country, and is she actually from sort of Stroud area, Gloucestershire?
It's Gloucester, isn't it, I think? Yeah, it's the accent. Right.
Yeah. See, one level of authenticity, in quotes, because this is all a bit hard to pin down is, how real are the accents from the time? There were no audio and certainly no video recordings from that era. There's something, this is the kind of guy I've become on YouTube. There's a linguists channel. He's a linguistic analyst, and there's a phrase I'd never come across before, which is the great vowel shift. Do you know about that?
No. Well, isn't this something? He's not a cunning linguist, is he? By the way,
He's quite cunning, but I'm not to be drawn on that.
Isn't this something to do with? I remember Peaky Blinders. They were all saying they were slagging off the accent. This is closer to home, obviously, in the Black Country. But Peaky Blinders, they were saying, "Oh, the accents aren't proper," and they said, "Well, actually, they are proper. That's what they spoke like then." And now the accent has changed again. And so is that part of that kind of great vowel disaster?
Yeah, I mean, because there were no recordings, the way they're deducing it is fascinating. It's the rhyming patterns in poetry, how words that appeared to rhyme at one stage stopped rhyming.
That's clever.
Yeah,
that's clever.
That is clever. There's some clever, as Ian Jury nearly said, some clever so-and-sos out there.
Yeah. There have not been some clever bustards.
I think it's in his bird watching years. Or was it bar stewards? I can't remember.
So what we're saying is we don't know whether the accent is genuine or not. But I mean,
well, I'm pretty sure it isn't, in the sense it's not literally from a few hundred years ago. We'd have to have footnotes, wouldn't we? If you think your beloved Shakespeare, whether or not you see it as one William Shakespeare or a team of people, trading as Shakespeare, there is an issue there about how authentic you go, and how we need footnotes for anything that's a few hundred years old.
It's interesting that, again, and I could feel the hand of Partridge from the Gibbons brothers.
The hand of Partridge.
Aha! In things like, there was a line where they were talking about, there's another, Daisy May Cooper, I think, was saying something about somebody was saying something about there was a case with 3 dead children, and Tim Key's character Gideon Bannister said, "I'd love 3 dead kids." And that kind of inappropriate blurting out of, "This is what I really mean, but I actually said this."
Yes,
is a kind of Partridgeism, isn't it, in a way? And there was quite a bit of that going on. Not that it detracted from my enjoyment particularly. I found it quite slow, though. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I guess I agree with that. It didn't worry me. Or was it that they packed a lot in? That's not quite the same thing, is it? You're saying the story wasn't moving on quickly enough for you.
I felt pacing. I felt, but again, maybe that's the thing, is that they haven't got cars to jump into. They're not checking their iPhone every 2 minutes or whatever. It is a time of more time than we had now, isn't it? People had less to do and more time to do it in, and so maybe it was trying to give it the feel of that. I don't know.
It could be, a less frenetic society. Although, of course, again, how authentic you're going to be. They died younger, but they wouldn't have known when that was necessarily coming.
Yeah.
There is something of that. I found it kept the interest up sufficiently. It didn't feel claustrophobic in the sense that you were confined to a very tight geographical place. Not in a very exaggerated sense. We're obviously in one village.
Yeah, and I have to give a mention to the Weald Downland Living Museum, which is where they filmed the thing. Which was
you do have to.
Which was a great backdrop. Again, it's the reference to my neck of the woods, very similar to the Black Country Museum. I'm guessing that, and it goes back much further in time, but. Yeah, the way that they shot it as well, it was kind of very much like sort of one camera kind of feel to it, hadn't it? Where the camera would move about with the action rather than you'd cut from shot to shot, which kind of takes the theme of the mockumentary, doesn't it, and reworks that in a way. But
yes, I suppose we couldn't have a wobbly handheld for every shot.
I'd put in my notes because I was trying to the pacing of it and how I felt with how it progressed the only thing I could come up with as a phrase was I found it very workmanlike. It was like kind of grudgingly fulfilling its obligation rather than I don't know. You look at the content, and it's not going to be a when the whistle blows kind of cheesy comedy, is it? You've got to do it in this way, I guess, and in as much as the gags that you can put in there are limited.
I mean, I get what you're saying about not being a frenetic pace, but that's not. You're saying something beyond that, aren't you?
Yeah, I felt I don't know whether like sometimes you feel like the cast aren't buying into it, or it reminded me. And I mentioned I was going to say at the start when you heard that voiceover. Well, it's actually the guy in the booth that starts to tell the story. When it first started, I thought this is Blackadder 1,
which famously we know how much you love that.
Yes, there may be.
That was one quirky show. I haven't watched it for years, but it was off the scale.
Well,
quirky,
I mean,
wasn't it? For its time.
Even the creators were a bit. I mean, if you ask Richard Curtis about it now, he still says, "Well, I'm not really quite sure what was going on there," But
it didn't do them any harm, did it? But I don't know that you get away with it these days. If you had a Blackadder 1 like that would be one of one.
Yeah,
possibly.
you wouldn't get any more. You wouldn't get another crack at it, would you? I don't think. Certainly, I think the money they spent on it as well for riding up and down outside a castle on a horse with Rowan Atkinson. Is I don't know. But yeah, no. I mean, maybe it's just me. And if you didn't pick it up at all, then maybe it was just something that I kind of put into my own head. But I just didn't feel. You've got great characters. You've got great actors in there like Daniel Rigby, Tim Key, Daisy May Cooper, Jessica Hines. I mentioned who it didn't seem to ignite. Maybe I'm talking out my hat. I mean, as we always say, we'd like to hear what everybody else thinks as well. So if you're listening to this podcast and you think, what are they on about? Or, oh yes, I know, I can help him with his flummoxed ways, then you're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, I've tried over these many years. It's not
to no avail. Let's pick up the action then. Gideon Bannister, who of course, as I mentioned, is Tim Key's character, detains this Thomasine Gooch, who is played by Daisy May Cooper, over accusations that she's killed a pig. That's the only case that he can get. She's killed a pig with a witchcraft, apparently, and once she's detained, he starts to question her as a Witchfinder does, but he soon finds out that it's not as easy as he thought it was going to be.
Right, now, you can see, if you ask around, there really is nothing to it.
Yes, well, there's not nothing to it, is there? Her pig's dead.
It was like 100.
And then we have your ungodly behaviour, your repellent character.
I like a drink.
Yes, and this is before we even discuss Brown Peter.
My chicken.
Your imp. Witnesses saw a demon in animal form approaching your dwelling to suckle at your teat.
Be gone, foul creature! In Christ's name, be gone!
It's a chicken.
Oh, Myers. The beast strode to the door with a purposeful gait.
That's how they walk. They don't stroll around whistling, do
Then one wonders how this whole thing has arisen.
You know what you could do, instead of wondering, is ask things.
Yeah, you'd love that, wouldn't you? Always twisting and pulling at things with unnecessary questions.
What is a necessary question?
Do I have a plough behind me? Are you done with that chicken? Do I have a lump?
I thought witchfinders were meant to ask questions. You're just saying stuff. That witchfinder is looking into the coven. He asks loads of questions.
Well, for your information, there is no coven.
For your information, there is a coven.
I thought there was, yeah.
Then why would your magistrate specifically tell me there is no coven?
Well, maybe he didn't want to give you the work because he didn't want to give you anything serious.
As well as her star being in the ascendant, Daisy May Cooper, I think, is gaining in stature, and I just if it comes to the trust issue with actors, I can relax when she's.
I must admit, I kind of the whole key, pardon the pun, Tim Key, the whole key to this is that relationship, and I think this is what we see as you go into the other episodes, is that Tim Key is this very, very uptight, highly strung, wanting to prove who he is kind of person, whereas Daisy May Cooper, as you heard there, is this kind of couldn't give a toss about anybody and tells it as it is, and he's very relaxed. And it's that tension between the two of them, isn't it? Apparently, he then takes her off on a journey to court to make a name for himself at the expense of her. But she kind of really relishes this winding him up as well, doesn't she? So it's kind of
and the more calm she is, the more he gets wound up,
and vice versa.
It's a suffering.
Yeah, and then you've got Daniel Rigby playing Hebel, this other guy. He's a kind of same sort of level witchfinder who Gideon Bannister, Tim Key's character, finds equally as irritating, and he's kind of really upset that they're on the same level, isn't he? You know, that they're vying for business around the same time and around the same town. So you kind of got this sort of multifaceted thing going on that's just all designed to wind up this Gideon Bannister, which Tim Key kind of does really, really quite well. So, I mean, in terms of a premise, and you know, witches aside, as is always the case with good sitcoms, it is almost an aside, isn't it? The whole where it's set and how it's set and all the rest of it. But yeah, I just you know, you do come away thinking. I mean, I don't know about you because you're a Unitarian, so I don't know. But I came away thinking I must watch more of this to see how it pans out. Did you have anything remotely like a normal person would?
I had a little twitch. Did you? But I've seen the doctor about it. I think she can help. But that aside, although I felt I was kind of inveigled into it in an unfair way, being interested in episode 2. Notice I say being interested as opposed to actually sitting down and watching. And that is, they're not self-contained stories, are they? It's a story arc, presumably across the whole of the 6 episodes.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair to say. So what you worry is that once you break your Unitarian duck,
all bets are off. If that breaks down, then my whole structure to my life is gone.
You get into episode 2, and then the next minute you're crying to Alison, going, "Oh, I got in too deep. I
thought I could handle it, but I can't. I've got to watch episode 3 now.
I did too much too soon, and now I'm on 4. I can't believe it.
I'm hooked. Look at me."
Yeah, I'll have to do it again for you, won't I suppose? I'll put it on my iPad and watch the other 5.
So I don't have to.
I think it's time to crystallise our thoughts, don't you? And put some numbers on the old thing. Do you want to go first?
I don't know what old thing you're talking about, but I am
hello, old thing.
Maybe a little surprised. I'm going to give it a 4.
Oh,
I like the fact it's. I mean, I hear what you say about. To some extent, the setting doesn't matter in the sense that we're always interested in relationships between human beings, aren't we? And their roles and status and pecking order.
Yeah.
But I am interested and delighted they've carried it off in the setting. And I think I want to. Not that I have the slightest influence on comedy creators anywhere, but if I did, I'd like them to think, "Oh yeah, we reward trying a new setting."
Yes.
And so 4 out of 5 for me.
That's a good score. It's got to get half a point at least for originality, hasn't it? Because as you rightly say, I mean, we talk about this all the while. You know, the sit is an important part of it, but not the be all and end all. But I mean, hats off, even big black hats off to them.
Yes, shoe-sized hats.
For doing something that, to my knowledge, has never been tackled in a sitcom or even a TV comedy before. For me, I would give it it's a 3.5 for me because I need to watch more, and I will watch more, but I need to watch more to kind of get a feel for whether it's in my head that I've kind of, I think, oh yeah, it is a bit workmanlike now, or whether it's actually just that episode, or whether actually I break free of that bit. But I would like to see more. But at the moment, as it stands, just on one episode, it's a 3.5 for me. Great cast. Fairly decent writing and original, 3.5 out of 5.
Fantastic. Making, if I'm not greatly mistaken, 75%. That's 7.5 out of 10, both totted together. And we'd be interested to know what you, dear listener, make of it too. Now, it's funny we've mentioned a certain part of England with which you are, I suppose it's not coincidental really, because you're associated with it. But I want you, if you can, Shane, for one moment to put to one side your prejudice about stand-up shows on Radio 4, because I think when you hear the title, you'll at least, please God, want to give it the time of day and at least cut it some slack for a listen. And it's in the series stand-up specials. It's on, well, it went out, is going out, I think. Is it ongoing? Anyway, has been out on BBC Radio 4. It's on BBC Sounds.
I know what
certainly
it is.
For the UK. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so. Isn't this by the lad that we saw on the comedy? There was like 4 of them on.
Comedy.
There was a lad from the Black Country.
I think you might be in the right ballpark. We certainly are geographically. I can't
remember his name, but he made a great joke about being black and being from the Black Country. I can't remember what it was.
Well, the title is Black Country Gentleman. Note the O-N at the end if you're searching it.
Oh, gentleman, huh?
And I've always wanted to call you Shane Fouracres in homage to the amount of land, because you're land-owning gentry. And that explains an awful lot. Anyway, his name is George Fouracres, but we have seen him in something recently, haven't we not?
Oh.
Slapped him in something?
Yeah, no.
Is it not the person you're thinking of?
No, different guy, I think. George Fouracres. Why do I know the name George Fouracres?
I'm sure he's been in something we
were
slabbing recently. Anyway, we can dig into that in the next week, can't we? So,
what's he called? Black Country Gentleman.
Yes. So it's George Fouracres, Black Country Gentleman.
Are you familiar with the double act Enoch and Eli?
No, I would have thought there's something from the Old Testament if I didn't know.
Okay, well, we'll talk more. I'm sure it'll come up next week. I'm sure it will. Or Lizzie Wiggins, the Duchess of Dudley. Have you ever heard of her?
No, but I would look forward to meeting her and to being ennobled by her.
You don't know what you've done, mate. You've opened a whole can of worms here. There's a whole nasty underbelly of Birmingham called the Black Country, and I don't know whether you can handle it, to be honest with you.
I'm not sure I can as a namby-pamby southerner. Born in London. I mean, there's little hope for me, is there really?
And it's not even on the TV, so there's no subtitles. What a nightmare.
Yeah, I need footnotes. Anyway, so that's your homework and everyone else's homework for the next week. Enjoy, I hope.
Yeah, okay. If you've enjoyed this, by the way, don't forget that you can catch up with all of our back catalogue at Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeart Radio, Spotify, YouTube, Dulce's, CNA,
and Freeman, Hardy and Willis.
Yes, three fine, upstanding gentlemen.
When you said catalogue, was that from the same school of mispronunciation that Nigella Lawson brought us microwave? It's on Twitter.
She is great, isn't she? I must admit.
Good value.
Yeah. She's the whole thing is like so tongue in cheek, isn't it? That maybe that's the answer. Maybe. Oh, actually, you've just reminded me of something. No, hush my mouth. I was going to say something. Quickly. No, I can't because it's something for a future slab.
Oh, okay. Well, you're doing the edit, so you can nip this in the bud. It remains for me to say on anti-social media, we are, of course, at Comedy Slab on Twitter and on Facebook. Please like our page, which has the handle, guess what, at Comedy Slab. Do follow us on Twitter and, as I say, like us on Facebook. Personal recommendations to friends, family and so on, family, pets, etc., etc. The sky's the limit, really. Maybe even that shouldn't be the limit. Let's go extra stellar. But anyway, if you could pass the word on, that'd be great. And a nice, juicy multi-star rating on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, or iTunes, I should probably say. That'd be great as well.
Definitely. 2 pints of Super Stella for me, please.
and a packet of crisps for me, please.
Do you know, I can't believe I got through this whole episode and I saw it and it just made me laugh then. And I never got to say the phrase pricky's pomposity. because that's in the description about Thomasine Gooch and her ability to prick his pomposity. and I always think it was that joke when she came, she heard the scream from the ward, and he said, "No, nurse, I told you to prick his boil." They're always
The old ones are very old now.
They are very old, aren't they?
Anyway, I'm getting a bit peckish, so I'm off to heat something up in the microwave.